Welcome to the Entrepreneur Master Series. This edition, October what is today? The 19th, 2022. I am the real Jason Duncan, and I'm so honored that you've decided to join me no matter where you are. If you're sitting at a cigar shop in Franklin, Tennessee, driving your car, listening to this, at your home office, wherever you happen to be. Thank you for joining this edition of the Entrepreneur Master Series. If you're new to the Entrepreneur Master Series, welcome. I'm glad that you're here. I want to tell you a little bit about what this is before we launch into today's show. The Entrepreneur Master Series, I do these twice a month. It's a deep dive master class for 90 minutes, twice a month, free webinar where I bring in an expert in some topic, some area of expertise related to the entrepreneurial story, the entrepreneurial journey. Today, we're talking about mindset, but we've talked about financial literacy, real estate investing. We've talked about insurance, banking, accounting, any sales, anything related to entrepreneurship. I bring in some great experts, some of the world's top experts in their craft. And we spend some 60 to 90 minutes diving deep into their craft and how it can help you be a more successful entrepreneur. If you're interested in doing these in the future, you're in luck because just because you register for this, you're going to be put into the newsletter to be advertised to. Send out my emails, letting you know when we do each one. We do these, like I said, twice a month, but we're moving into the holiday season next month in November. So we'll be taking a break during Thanksgiving and the whole month of December. We won't be doing one, but come January, we're going to move these to Wednesdays. Actually, today's a Wednesday. We don't normally do these on Wednesdays, but we're kind of setting the stage for moving these to Wednesdays instead of Tuesdays. But before I bring on our guest expert today, I want to tell you about the topic. The topic today is 3 ways your brain is keeping you poor and how to change it today. Most people don't understand how much their subconscious affects their reality. And I only recently discovered how true that actually is. Our mental health, our physical health, our relationships, our financial health are all dictated. The realities of each of those areas is dictated by how we think. And this isn't mumbo jumbo psychic crap, call 1-900 numbers. This is science. And this is legit stuff. And today we're going to do a deep dive into 3 ways, as I said, that your brain is keeping you poor and how to change it today. And so I want to introduce you to our expert for today. His name is Dr. Justin Moseley. He is known as the Mindset Doctor. And I'll tell you a little bit about him in just a second. But Justin, go ahead and turn on your camera, come into the room, and we'll do formal introductions. What's going on, brother?
Hey, good to be here, man.
So it's an honor to have you. It's funny how we met. I had a guy on my podcast, The Root of All Success, which, by the way, I didn't say this at the top, but these are also released as special episodes of my podcast, The Root of All Success. So if you're listening to this on my podcast sometime in the future after we did this live, thank you for doing so. But you need to come to these live. You get to ask questions, be here and be here live on the webinar. But Justin saw a friend of his on my podcast and then reached out to me and said, "Hey, I think we live in the same town." And we sure enough lived in the same town, not very far from each other, and hung out, had a cigar one night at the Standard in Nashville, and became really good friends. And now we meet pretty much on a regular basis every week for coffee. I got together, had coffee this morning, and I count Justin as one of my dear friends, and I'm grateful to know you, Justin. I'm glad you're here, man.
Yeah, it's an honor to be here, and grateful to know you as well. And that's crazy. We were just down the street for each other for so long, but it took that mutual connection to actually connect us. And now, one of my best friends. I appreciate you.
Well, Dr. Justin Moseley is known as the Mindset Doctor. He's a leading expert in personal transformation. He speaks regularly on how to reprogram your subconscious mind for success, overcoming self-doubt, develop unstoppable self-confidence, finding purpose, building an influential personal brand, and the exchange your comfort for your calling mantra, which he talks about quite a bit. He shows leaders how to achieve more in life by reprogramming their subconscious mind for success. And I'm going to start by stealing something he taught me at a workshop he did for our mastermind group not too long ago, this reprogramming of the subconscious mind. with the analogy of a boat. So Justin, if you were going to do that later, I'm sorry, I'm stealing your thunder, but I love it so much. I use it all the time. As a matter of fact, I met with a client yesterday. I was telling you about that this morning and used this analogy. But if you can imagine, you're on a boat, you're hanging out with your buddies, you got the boat set on autopilot to go to the destination. You're out in the Gulf, you're out in the ocean, wherever it is, set on autopilot, and you guys are hanging out, talking, laughing, smoking cigars, drinking beers, whatever, responsibly so, because you're in charge of a boat. But you've set the autopilot on that boat to go to the certain, to a certain point on the map, and the autopilot's doing its job. But you look up and you realize, ooh, I'm not set that where I really want to go. I want to go over here. So you grab the steering wheel on the boat. There's actually a better name for that. I don't know what it is, but you grab the steering wheel on the boat and you turn it to go the direction you want. And the boat, of course, changes course and it starts going to the new direction, the one that you actually want to go to, the better direction. You've decided this is a better place for us to go, the better destination. And as long as you hold that steering wheel and you're paying attention to it, it's going to go that way. But as inevitably on a boat, you're going to let go of that and go back to enjoying your friends and your cigars and whatever you're doing on the boat. Well, what does the boat do? Well, the boat goes back to where the autopilot originally told it to go. Our brains are exactly the same way. Our brains are programmed from birth to adulthood to go a certain direction, to think, to believe, to behave, and act a certain way. And every once in a while, we will go, you know what, I need to lose weight, or you know what, I need to stop smoking cigarettes, or you know what, I need to do whatever. And we grab the wheel and we start going the direction we want to go. And it works for a while until we let go of the wheel. And then our body's minds steer us back towards the original autopilot destination. So what you do is you help people reprogram the autopilot, reprogram that subconscious mind. So is that a good retelling of your story?
That's great. Because we have to reset that autopilot because we are programmed a certain way. So by reprogramming your subconscious mind resets the autopilot to actually go in the direction. So then when you take your hands off the wheel, you're actually going in the direction you want to go.
So how did you, let's start there. How did you get introduced to this as a concept? Because you are a doctor of chiropractic. You and your wife have a very successful chiropractic practice here in the Nashville area. And you're not a practicing chiropractor anymore, but how did you get introduced to the idea of mindset, subconscious work, et cetera?
Yeah, well, it started for me when I was 16, went to Barnes and Noble and I bought this book, this actual copy, Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. And that's what really started my journey of, hey, if you change your mind, you can change your life. So I started diving into that. And it was really, that turned me on to Jack Canfield. And Jack Canfield, that's when I first started hearing about the reticular activating system and the autopilot and programming. And I just loved that stuff. I love just consuming that. And I truly believe that it's the level of mindset and personal development work that I did for years that led to the success that we had in practice. And now we had the success there. When I switched gears, I wanted to help other people with mindset, personal development, reprogramming themselves so they could achieve higher levels of success. Yeah.
So you decided that you exchanged your comfort for your calling, in the sense that there was comfort in the fact that you had, you gotten a degree and built a successful practice around a professional career. And then that wasn't your calling. That wasn't what you decided to do. And you've now taken that into a place where you're exercising your gifts and your passion on a daily basis. And it's pretty evident to me and to people, I think, that know you. So what is it about, or the topic today, of course, is the 3 ways our brain is keeping us poor, and how to change it. But that's that's a teaser topic. And of course we did that on purpose, but it could relate not just to money. It could relate to any way that we are living. As I said in the opening, our health, our mental state, our subconscious, our relationships, our financial health, all those are dictated by the way we think and what's programmed in our mind. So I'm going to kind of turn it over to you. How would you like to take the conversation? You're the expert. I will say this to everybody in here. I just posted in the chat. If you have a question, there is a Q&A bubble at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you just hit that little Q&A bubble, you can ask a question live. Justin and I will both see it, and we'll make sure to answer it here live if you want to ask a question. Don't do the questions in the chat because we might miss that, but do it in the Q&A bubble. Hit that and we'll be happy to answer. So Justin, I'll kind of turn it over to you and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, I think you set it up good with that analogy of the autopilot, and we are programmed a certain way subconsciously. So, and you're right. I like Think and Grow Rich. And I know you're big on Think and Grow Rich as well. And rich isn't just about money. It can be about money, but it's the relationships, it's the abundant life that we're called to live is so much more than just financial, monetary gain. But I think it goes back to, so my first step, like your brain is actually keeping you poor, is because you lack vision. And I think that's one of the biggest things, because our subconscious programming is designed for survival. It's not designed for success and abundance, because what that looks like to the subconscious mind is risk. And we are designed subconsciously for safety and comfort. So when we have these big goals and these big dreams, that's scary to our subconscious mind. So it's like, no, that's danger. Let's stay here where it's comfortable. So what you have to do to overcome that is have a bigger vision. And I think most people don't even really have a vision. In fact, I ask a lot of people, what do you want? They can't even tell me. They tell me all the things they don't want, but they're not really clear on what they actually want. And for people that think that they do have a vision, I want to challenge them too, because a lot of people, they actually just have an idea of what they want, not really a true vision. Like maybe I have an idea, I want $1 million business or a $5 million business or a $10 million business, or I'd like to have $1 million in personal income, but they don't really have a vision of what that's like. And a perfect example of vision is Walt Disney. Walt Disney, great visionary, obviously with Disney World. But there's a story when Epcot was actually opened. It opened after Walt Disney had died. And they interviewed Roy Disney, Walt's brother. And they said, isn't it a shame that Walt isn't around to see this? And Roy said to the reporter, Walt did see this. That's why you're seeing this today, because that's how real Walt's vision was. He made it so real. And that's what I think is lacking for people. In fact, the Bible says without vision, people perish. So you have to have that vision, and it's got to be so real you can actually see it happening. And it actually excites you. It moves you to actually want to take action towards your goals.
What is vision? What does that mean?
Yeah. And it's different for everyone, because I think some people get caught up in like calling and vision and things like that, because they think they have to have some grand Mother Teresa style vision. And the reality is it's whatever moves you. Like your calling and your vision right now in your life could be to be an amazing parent and to actually have an amazing relationship with your kids. It could be you're going to work and you're going to put a smile on other coworkers' face. It could be even, I'm going to go to the gas station today and I'm going to lift up that clerk, because you never know what they're going through right now. So, but again, it's so personalized to you. You have to figure out for you, what is that vision? What is that calling? What is that purpose? Because that's what's going to be that driving force that pulls you out of your comfort zone to actually go for something bigger.
I think that I think a couple of points I'd like to make on that idea is that vision is what you want to be, not what you will do. And I know you and I have been talking about that, because you and I are going through the Think and Grow Rich workbook together. And it's been very fascinating about how to, you corrected me, and rightly so, because you're a coach on mindset. but one of the things I wrote in there was about what I want to happen or something like that. And you go, no, you write it as if it has happened. And that's what helps us see things better about what we will be. So for instance, one of the things I want to be is I want to be 185 pounds. Like that's a vision of what I want to be, not what I want to do. But there are things I have to do in order to get there. And so no matter what we see, our preferred future, which is our vision, there are things we do to get there, but don't focus on what you got to do. Focus on the thing that you want to be at the end. That's what you're talking about with vision. That's what you've taught me. Yeah. So one of the ways that we're keeping ourselves poor, whether it's physically or financially or otherwise, we don't have a vision for what we really want to be in the future. That's pretty good. How do I think fix that?
It comes from living from the end. And I know I shared that concept with your mastermind group, and because you do have to have the vision of what it looks like, but then go ahead and live from the end. What would it be like to have that financially? What would it be like to have the amazing relationships? What would it be like to live as that and start visually seeing it? And that's why I love the mindset stuff, because science now shows the mind can't tell the difference between something real and something vividly imagined. So if you start to imagine it and rehearse it and play it over and over in your mind, it actually becomes real to your body. we've seen this in science. Now people can actually heal themselves of diseases by what they put into their mind. And it's so crazy. You can change yourself physiologically. You can change yourself chemically, biochemically by the visualizations you do in your mind. And I think that's something new that we've been talking about too, is with affirmations. I think a lot of people do affirmations wrong. They think, oh, people have said to do affirmations. Let me copy their affirmations, or let me Google the top 10 affirmations to do. And they just say words. They don't actually feel the feelings. And that's where it comes in. Your vision has to be something that moves you emotionally. You got to be able to feel it inside. You got to feel it, see it in your mind, and feel it with your heart. And when you feel that emotion, that's when you start to take action. And that's what will actually be your driving force, because hey, running a business is hard. Doing the things that we got to do in life is hard. But when we have this inner drive, moved emotionally by a strong vision, that's when you go out and we actually make things happen.
You know, that point, Justin, you made about our bodies don't know the difference between real or imagined things. And the best example, I don't know if you said it or somebody gave me, is scary movies. So you could be sitting in a movie theater or in your living room, wherever you're watching a scary movie. And as you're watching that scary movie, logically, your conscious mind knows this is a movie. It is not real. The dude does not have a chainsaw coming at me in my house. Like it's not real. But physiologically, what happens? Our heart rate increases. We might sweat a little bit. The hair on the back of our neck stands up. Our pupils dilate. Our body is responding to an imagined reality. Now, if that can happen in a movie, why don't we write our own movies? Why don't we have a better vision about what we want to see? And I tell you, I used to not buy into this. I used to think this was mumbo jumbo psychic crap, which I mentioned at the top of the show. I used to think that's what it was, but it's not. Like, this mindset stuff is for real. You know, what's funny about the Think and Grow Rich, by the way, if you're those of you who are listening and watching this live, if you haven't read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, you're doing yourself a disservice. You have to go read that book. But he wrote that in 1930s. I think it was published in 1937 eventually, or published in 37. But the stuff he wrote about the brain and how we think, like, wasn't verified until like recently, within the last 30 or 40 years, right?
Yeah. So it's like, it was mumbo jumbo to them back then, but now science is actually proving it. And I love that too. Is that, yeah, we talked about the scary movie. There's different things. You could visualize yourself being on the top of a skyscraper and actually closing your eyes, being in the moment and walking over to the edge, looking over the edge, feeling the breeze hit you. And you could actually become scared that you're going to fall off the side of the building. That's what you can do to your body. And a great example of it is actors. Actors get really good actors, they get so into their character, they become that character. And one of the most famous examples is the guy that played the Joker. Can't remember his name right
Joaquin Phoenix?
No, the other one, the one that actually overdosed.
Golly.
What was his name? Yeah, I'm losing his name right now, but he was a really good Joker, but he got so dark in that role. He played that role so much, mentally it messed him up, and he overdosed on drugs because of that and ended up passing away. And that's the thing. He played a heartthrob in other movies, and he was the life of the party in the heartthrob, but then goes and plays this really dark role and actually becomes that, and actually leads to the end of his life. So that's the power, though, of our mind. So, and I think within life, that's the question we should ask ourselves. Are we the star of our own movie? I think a lot of people are playing a supporting cast of the movie of our own life. So how are you going to show up? And I think this is something that me and you talked about. There was a study done in a retirement home. And they took these guys in their 80s, 90s, and they said, I want you to pretend that you're in your 20s. And they played music from like the 1920s to 1940s, whatever era that was. And they had them pretend that they were 20 again. And they actually took blood samples, they took urine samples, they took all these measurements. And what they noticed is, by them just pretending, all of their markers got better in their lab tests. They actually grew. They were actually taller because they were standing up in better posture. They were actually started playing touch football with each other and like running as much as they could around the facility, all because they believed, they pretended to be 20 again. So the question is, who are you pretending to be in your life right now? How are you showing up? And I think intention is one of the biggest things people are missing. They're not showing up with any sort of intention. They're just showing up day to day just to see what happens. But when you can really be intentional, just like those guys, be intentional to show up like you're 20. If you were intentional today of wrapping around your vision, like this is my vision, this was what I want to do. So I'm going to show up today as if I'm the person who collects $10 million, or if that's your vision for your business. That person's going to show up a lot different than me just waking up saying, I'm going to see what happens today. So you have to be intentional with your time, intentional with your thoughts, which I think is even more important, because if you're not intentional with your thoughts, all the negative voices start to creep in. You can't do that. Who are you qualified to do that?
Yeah, the negative self-talk is our biggest enemy. You know, we say things like, oh man, I'm so stupid. That was a dumb thing. Why'd I do that? I'm an idiot. You know, those little comments aren't innocuous. They are actual real poison against our ability to live our best life. And Jake, thanks for that. It's Heath Ledger.
Yes, I don't know why I lost his name there.
Heath Ledger. But you know, our ability to speak life into one another also is our ability to speak life into ourselves. So if we say positive, nice things, like this is a funny story. I'm not saying this to brag, but it's a funny story. But yesterday I was checking my car in Detroit. I was in Detroit visiting a client, and I had a rental car, and I was checking in. And I pulled up to the gate, you know, the parking area. And, you know, those people that are working in those little booths aren't normally the friendliest people in the world.
Right.
And so this older Black lady was there. She had purple hair, and it was actually kind of cool looking. It was actually, she did it. She's carrying it well. It looked really cool.
Yeah.
And she had one of those normal attitudes of people working at a parking booth. Where's your ticket? You know, something like that.
Yeah.
And so when we got done, I looked up and said, you have a good day. And I really like your hair. And her whole face changed, like everything changed. She goes, well, thank you. And then I drove off, and I could see in my rearview mirror, she's just smiling. And so if we can speak life into someone in an instant like that, we could do it for ourselves too. I really believe, and I think you would probably corroborate this, is that the first few words of our day, the first interaction of our day will set the tone for the rest of the day. So if you get up and somebody's yelling at you, or you get up, you stump your toe, or you get up and something bad happens, probably gonna have a crappy day. But if you get up and say affirmations or nice things, or do things, or like me, I pray. First thing I do every morning, roll out of bed and pray, kind of sets the tone for my day. So so if lacking vision is the first thing that we're doing to keep us poor, we can change it by getting vision. So what's another thing that we're doing on a regular basis that keeps us poor?
Yeah, I think the second thing is people aren't feeding their mind daily, which goes into what you were just talking about. And that's the thing. We have to keep guard of our mind. Our mind is like a garden. What seeds are we allowing to be planted into our subconscious mind? And it goes back to, I mean, death and life is in the power of the tongue. You saw the power of that. When you spoke life into that lady, it lifted her up. We know if we speak bad to someone else, it can bring them down. But how are you actually speaking to yourself? What thoughts are you thinking? How are they affecting you? So that's where I think holding every thought captive is very important, because then we can actually be aware of what is that negative self-talk. Because the problem is a lot of times it's a tape that's running in the background that we're not even hearing. So we have to be aware of those thoughts that are coming in, because when we become aware of those, then we can actually change them and actually create the empowering beliefs that we need to actually pull the weeds out of the garden, so to speak, and plant new seeds, the empowering, life-giving seeds. But I think definitely feeding your mind every single day is one of the most important things. And I was thinking about that this morning. I mean, how important it is. Yeah, we got to eat food. We got to feed ourselves, but that only can nourish us for a few hours. But when you feed your mind, that can nourish you for a lifetime. So I'd rather you skip a meal than skip an opportunity to feed your mind. So feed your mind every single day. And you can start easy, listening to Jason's podcast, the Entrepreneur Master Series. All these things are feeding your mind. You got books, you got podcasts, you got YouTube videos. Do something every single day to feed your mind, Otherwise, if you're not actually doing it and being proactive, you're being programmed, whether it's TV, radio, advertisements, everything that's around you is the own thoughts that are going in your head are actually programming you to go away from the vision and what you actually want to create in your life.
Yeah, well, I think we've all heard the garbage in, garbage out. And for those of us who are parents, we talk about the influence that our friends are to our kids, the influence that their friends have on them. And the reason is because what's being fed in, if we put ourselves in an environment where negative things happen or not so good things happen, garbage in, garbage out. It's like a computer. You put bad code in, you get a bad program. So our brains are exactly the same way. What we put into our brains is what our reality is going to be. Like what I said in the opening, I think that most people, and most, I do mean like 99% of people, I think maybe even less than 1% of people understand it, but most people do not understand how much the subconscious mind and how we think affects our reality. And, again, Justin, I used to think all this stuff was hogwash because I think, if you'd have told me, well, yeah, if you're 90 and you think you're 20, you're going to feel better. Well, I would have thought that's crazy until I see it happen. I remember meeting a pastor. For those of you that know me, I used to be a pastor a long time ago. And I remember meeting a guy. This is when I was living in Nebraska at the time. And he was a pastor at at another local church. And we had a little pastor association, and we were hosting at our church building one day. And he stayed after a bit. We were chatting, and he told me a story about how, and he was probably in his 30s. I was in my 20s at the time, but he told me, he said, yeah, I'm a cancer survivor. I had cancer. I'm really, and I don't remember what kind it was. And I said, well, how did, what happened? How did you get over it? He goes, I didn't go to doctors. I just started eating better. I ate nothing but fruit. I think it was one of the things he said for like 6 months. And they were in mindset. He talked about that. And I remember at the time going, maybe you didn't have cancer. I remember thinking that was kind of the way I was perceiving it. But now I know, like, if you feed your mind garbage, you're going to get garbage. If you feed your mind good things, you're going to get good things.
Yeah.
So
I think
really cool.
That's huge too. It's like, we understand that concept, garbage in, garbage out, but people aren't even aware of the garbage that's going in. And the biggest form of garbage is the own thoughts you think about yourself that are negative and demeaning, because there's a lot of things that we say to ourselves that we would never say to anybody else. We wouldn't talk like that to somebody else. Why do we allow ourselves to talk like that to ourselves? So one, we got to get aware of those thoughts. And that's where the mind is programmed to keep you poor and keep you where you're at, because the reality is, if you want more, you've got to become more. And feeding your mind is an opportunity for you to actually to become more. And part of it is like, and I think of it as like a container. Like, I've got a container here that holds like 24 ounces. So if that represents my mind, I can only put so much in this container, and then it'll just start overflowing. Well, if I want to actually retain more and become more, I need a bigger container. So I got another one that holds like over 40 ounces. Well, the next level, then I could get a gallon jug, but I have to become a bigger container. Eventually, hey, I want to become a fish tank size container holding all the goodness and all the things that are possible, thinking about what's possible for you. So think about that in terms of your mindset, and your level of growth is the size of container that you are. So you got to focus on your own personal growth to become a bigger container that has more possibility.
You said that that the biggest negative food that we take into our minds every day is our negative self-talk. What are some other, besides negative self-talk, what are some other negative things that you see as a coach dealing with mindset that people are allowing into their brains?
Yeah, one of the biggest is comparison, like comparing yourselves to other people. And social media is really bad about that now, because you see other people's highlight reels and you compare their highlight reel to your behind the scenes. And you think, oh, I'm the only one that struggles with this or that. No, the reality is we all have our struggles. They're just not posting that on social media. So I think that's one of the biggest things right now. And I mean, they've even done studies now that a 30 minutes of social media time can make you more depressed by X amount. And it's like, I get it, because you're comparing, oh, they're on vacation again. Why am I still here? I wish I was on vacation. You start comparing your life to other people. So you got to get rid of the comparison and focus on, that's where it goes back to the vision. Like, what are you really called to do? And I think when you look at it from that lens and think about each day, I mean, I survived a near-death accident. So it's easy for me to be like, every day's a gift. But the reality is, if you really think about it, life is not guaranteed. Today was not guaranteed, but you have air in your lungs. Your heart is beating right now. It's a gift that you're alive. So why are you still here? You're here to make a difference. You're here to make an impact. So when you focus on that, then you actually start to see the opportunities around you. You see the opportunity to comment somebody on their purple hair, or to put a smile on this person's face over here, because you realize it's not about me and my bubble that I'm trying to walk around in. It's the impact that I get to make every single day.
One of the things I think that a lot of the negative food we get is the news.
Yep.
You know, this is just why we subject ourselves to the news is beyond me. And this is a clip we can use for social media purposes later, but I think everybody should turn off the news permanently. Like, never ever watch it again. I think it's immoral. I think it's unconscionable what we see. And if any of you are in the news business, you can defend yourself to me privately later. But I don't think all of you are scum. That's not what I'm saying. But I think that the product that's put out is nothing but negativity and reinforcement of bad mental state. It's bad for our brains. I turned off the news 10 years ago, and I can't tell you how better my life is. And anytime somebody goes, you don't know what's going on, where are you, living under a rock? I'm like, I'm blissfully unaware of the crap that you have to put up with. Every once in a while, I might miss a good story, but I'm okay with that. Somebody will let me know the good stuff, but I'm not going to go subject myself to CNN, Fox News, CNBC. Well, actually CNBC, I like that. That's reality shows, but like MSNBC, all that crap. I'm not going to subject myself to that. Why? It's the same way. Like, if you lived in a house with someone who went, bad news, bad news, bad news, and told you bad news all the time, you'd move. Well, you turn it on yourself and subject yourself to it. Quit doing that. It's keeping you poor. Stop doing that. They say we're in a recession. Whoever the hell they is.
Yeah.
Well, I don't listen. I've been on more airplanes in the past 2 or 3 weeks than I've been on in a long time. Every seat is full. I've been to Vegas twice. Every casino's got 15,000 people in it spending money. We're not in a recession. They're trying to tell you that to scare you into submission. It's negative reinforcement of bad things. So stop watching the news. Soapbox over. I'm sorry.
No, and it's so true, just because it is so much negativity. And the problem is because that's what sells. They can give you the hook right before they go to commercial break of, this person got murdered, or this person is, the school board is in trouble for something. And like, oh, I just want to watch to see what happens. But then a lot of people use the excuse, well, I just want to see the weather. We got apps on our phone that can tell you the weather that are more accurate than a weather person, which, no offense to any weather people, but that's like the only job where you can be wrong most of the time and still keep your job. Like, I don't understand that.
That and politicians.
Yeah. Yeah. And politicians. There we go. But yeah. So, in speaking to news, television, and the reason it's called programming is because it does program you. And I'm into the brain science. So I look at our brain waves from throughout the day. We're at high beta. That's our getting things done. And then alpha is our creativity. And then we have theta, and then we have delta as we're falling asleep. Those are deeper levels of brain waves. But when you're in that alpha state, you can actually use that. And that's where meditation comes in. You can get yourself into an alpha state and program yourself positively. The problem is TV puts you in the alpha state, and then it shows you what it wants you to see to program you to believe that's what's going on. So it can be used for good or bad. It can be used to manipulate people, or it can be used for good if you know how to use it. If you know to put yourself into an alpha state and actually plant the right seeds, you can actually flourish. The problem is you're going to sit in front of your screen and get into that state. Oh, here's the commercial. And it's funny when you watch like medication commercials, if you mute the volume, it's just people that are happy and just running through a field. as they're actually, the screen is talking about all the side effects and anal leakage and death and heart attacks and all these things are going to happen to you if you take this, but you're watching this person run through a field and they're so happy from taking this. That's all part of the programming. They're very good at programming you to believe what they want you to believe. So that's where I think doing the work, going back to this point of feeding your mind daily, because your mind is under attack. And if you're not feeding your mind, who is?
That's good. All right. What's our third thing that we're doing on a regular basis to keep us poor?
Yep. So the third, and it's a big one, and I know you'll enjoy this one too, is not surrounding yourself with the right people. Relationships are rocket ships. And just like with our relationship, we were connected through a mutual friend and our relationships flourished and we've been able to connect with other people. But I can't underestimate how powerful having the right people in your corner. And a lot of people ask me, like when it comes to goal setting, like, should I tell other people my goals or should I keep them to myself? And I think you have to be careful. So you got to do it both ways. One, if you tell the wrong people your goals, they're going to shut them down. They're going to plant those negative seeds of why you can't do this. That's a stupid idea, all those things. But if you tell the right people your goals, they'll actually help you achieve them. So that's where surrounding yourself with the right people really comes in. And I think I shared this story at your at the workshop for your mastermind, was the story of the $500 dinner. So there was this wealthy businessman that he was interviewed by a reporter, and the reporter asked him, if you lost everything, what would you do? And he said, I'd wake up, I would go out and I would get a job. I would save up $500 and I'd go out to eat at a restaurant that costs $500. And then I'd go back to work. I'd work, I'd save $500. I'd go out to eat at a restaurant that costs $500. Then I'd go back to work. I'd save $500. He said it again. And the reporter stopped him and said, why do you keep wasting $500? And he said, see, that's the difference. I know if I go to a restaurant like this, it's not a waste of money. I know if I put myself in that environment, there's people there that I can connect with that will help me gain all of my wealth back. And that's the power of surrounding yourself with the right people. And the good news is you don't have to go spend $500 for a dinner. A great thing to do is to find a mastermind group. Surround yourself, get a coach. I think a great coach can pull something great out of you. So surround yourself, but you got to invest in yourself. Invest in yourself, but put yourself in an environment with the right people because they can elevate your level of thinking. And that's where these kind of overlap, because you got to feed your mind, but being in the right environment with the right people helps feed your mind even more. Because the reality is your level of thinking that got you where you are today is not the same level of thinking that's going to get you to where you want to go tomorrow. You have to raise your level of thinking, and putting yourself into a mastermind group can elevate and kind of expedite that level of thinking for you.
In the book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, he coined the phrase and the concept really of mastermind. And today, it still boggles my mind that some people don't know what that is, but frankly, people don't know. So I'm going to explain it, if I may, just a little bit. Yeah. A mastermind, as talked about in the book, Think and Grow Rich, he talked about getting, one brain is good, but more brains is going to be better, right? If you can just get more brains together, all aiming in the same direction, that is your key to success. And Napoleon Hill interviewed over 500 of the world's most successful business owners and entrepreneurs back in the 20s and 30s. To help write the book, Think and Grow Rich, to give him, what do they do? And every one of them said, it's the power of the mastermind experience. Even though they didn't use that term, he coined it, but the mastermind experience. Like Henry Ford had I think an 8th grade education and ended up building one of the largest car companies on the planet. And he was even taken to court one time, charged with like the people are suing him, say, look, you don't have the mental capacity to run Ford Motor Company. And he said, well, you ask me anything. And he could find someone in his mastermind to answer any question. And ultimately he said, I don't need to know it. I've got a mastermind of people that help me know everything. So masterminds are very, very, very important as our coaches to help get you where you need to be, and not surrounding yourself with those people to help get you where you need to be is one of the ways that we keep ourselves poor. And this is a point a mentor, a coach of mine told me a long time ago. And the first time he said it, it didn't make sense. Well, I guess it made sense, but I didn't really get the depth of it until later. He said, don't be too busy for success. And so right now, there are people who are not on this webinar that are, I'm too busy. Like, I'm too busy. I can't sit down for 60, 90 minutes and learn. I got to get another deal done. So you're too busy for success. Sometimes you have to back it up to make progress. Sometimes you got to sit down, slow down, and say, okay, what do I need to do? And sometimes invest in that money into the mastermind or to the coach or to that group or that networking organization. That's the way to do it. And it doesn't have to be expensive. I just talked to a lady today who reached out to me. She runs a networking group here in Sumner County, and I think it's $2,000 a year to join it. And $2,000. I told her, that's cheap. You should charge like 10. Like, what? Why 2? That sounds too cheap. But there are ways to get out there and invest in grabbing the minds of other people. So Justin, you said that the 3 things that we're doing is lack of vision, not feeding your mind daily, and not surrounding yourself with great people. What I want to do now is, if I can, I want to shift the conversation a little bit into the corrective measures. Like, now we know what we're doing that keeps us poor. I want to shift to corrective measures. But before I make the shift, I don't want to leave unsaid anything from your perspective on not surrounding yourself with great people as one of the reasons we're keeping ourselves poor. Is there anything you want to add to that before we shift?
Yeah. And I think it goes along the lines with the container. You have to expand your container and who you are. You got to expand your level of thinking, because look at it like this. You can't make $100,000 on a $50,000 mindset. You can't make $1 million on a $500,000 mindset. So surrounding yourself with other people who have gone before you and they've hit those milestones helps show you the path of what's possible. So they can allow you to actually expand your mind to, hey, you know what? This is possible for me and I can do this. So I think everybody should be a part of a great mastermind. Jason's got an awesome mastermind. I run mastermind groups. We'd love to have you as part of ours, but if not, at least get a part of somebody's mastermind group, because they've been a game changer in my life. Jason, I know you've been a part of them for years and you run them too. Like, masterminds themselves can expedite your success.
Yeah, it's like adding nitrous oxide to your engine. It just gives you this boost of power that you can't do it on your own. And it accelerates everything for you too. And it's not just a mastermind, it's any kind of mentorship program, networking opportunity that helps accelerate that. It's the acceleration. What's it worth? Like, I could work for 20 years and get to where I want to be, or I could work for 2 to 5 with the help of a mastermind and get where I want to be in 2 to 5 years. Now, is it going to cost me some money? Yeah, but it's going to cost me money to spend 20 years doing it as well. I'm just accelerating it. I want to get to it now. So I could stay poor, physically healthy, mentally, financially, or I could change my mindset and surround myself with better people and get there. So I want to take just a break.
Just to add with that, because I like to call it writing a check to go faster. Because if there's something like, whether it's investment in a coach, a course, a mastermind, if it can help me get to where I want to go in a shorter amount of time, I'll write that check to go faster and get to that success quicker.
So this Entrepreneur Master Series is sponsored by a company called Story. And I want to take just a minute to tell everybody about our sponsor, Story. And Story is spelled with 2 Y's. Why? Because they're awesome. So Story is a company that helps you as a person on the internet who wants to promote social content by editing, producing, and publishing some amazing short form content. So, like, if you think about 30 years ago, you weren't in business unless you were in the Yellow Pages. 20 years ago, 10 or 15, 20 years ago, you weren't in business unless you had a website. Like, you have to have a website in order to be in business. Well, today, if you're in business, you've got to be producing video content online. Justin does a great job. If you haven't followed him, follow him on Instagram. And I can't remember his Instagram handle off the top of my head. What is it? What is your
Dr. Justin Moseley?
Dr. Justin Moseley, and I'm the real Jason Duncan. You can see our Instagram content, the social content, the video content that we put out. What Story does is Story is a service that will take your content, you record it, send it to them, they edit it, they put the on-screen captions, they put the on-screen images, they even cut in stuff, they do the Zoom edits and Zoom cuts, they even post it to your socials for you, right? The hashtags, they write the content, they do it all. And you're probably thinking, well, that's fine, I just don't know what to record. Ooh, they even got that covered. Story's app has a prompt every single day for something you should write on, and you get to pick the categories. I think there's like 30 categories you can choose from: entrepreneurship, leadership, business, finance, life insurance, money, banking, whatever it happens to be. So you want to prompt on social or family relationships, you just hit the prompt button. It says, here's the hook, here's the thing you need to talk about, and here's how you finish it. You record it on your phone, you submit it through the Story app, and boom, you've got an amazing piece of social content to help boost your business. If you want to use Story and find out what it's like, you get a special offer as a listener to the Entrepreneur Master Series by going to therealjasonduncan.com/story. That's therealjasonduncan.com/story. I think the deal is like 50% or 10% off the first 3 months or something like that. I forget what it is, but you get a special discount you can't get anywhere else by going to therealjasonduncan.com/story. So Justin, as we get back into this, let's talk about our corrective measures, because the title of this was 3 things that your brain is doing to keep you poor and how to fix it today. So some of this might be evident and obvious to some of our listeners, but if the first one is you lack vision, okay, how do we fix that? How do we fix the lack of vision?
Yeah, I think part of it gets down to using our imagination again. Because think about it, as we were kids, what did we do? We used our creativity and used our imagination. And the thing is, and it's kind of counterintuitive these days, but boredom breeds creativity. And let me tell you why. Because as kids, when we got bored, what did we do? We invented new games. We pretended we were superheroes that had all these superpowers. We created new identities. Nowadays, what do we do when we get bored? We grab our phone, or we try to go on social media, check our emails. We look at the things to do to distract us, instead of allowing ourselves, when we get bored, because boredom is actually a sign of our brain waves dropping down where we can actually be creative. But instead of allowing ourselves to tap into that creativity, we distract ourselves. So eliminate the distractions and use that time to actually be creative. Instead of saying, hey, I'm going to grab my phone, let me check Instagram. You know what? I'm going to think about my vision. I'm going to start getting creative about what I want to create in life and sort of get excited about that. And you think about all the greats like Benjamin Franklin, Leonardo da Vinci, they actually had time set throughout the day where they would take naps during the day and they would allow themselves to relax. They didn't distract themselves with all the stuff that's going on in the world. We got a lot more distraction these days. But what happened in those times is they got all these creative ideas. The inventors created the new inventions. They actually solved the problems that were going on in their lives by having that space. So giving yourself, I like to call it strategic thinking time, where you eliminate the distractions. That's when you go into, you slow down your breathing, you go into that alpha brainwave state, and you get really creative. And that's where the answers to your problems start to come. The answers to your problems don't come when you're putting out the fire and you're go, go, go. The answers come when you give yourself the space. And that's why a lot of answers come to us in the shower. We get this creative idea. Why? Because we're not distracted by all the things going on. We can actually give ourselves the space to have a creative idea. So I think that's one of the biggest things early on is allow yourself to be creative. But in order to do that, you got to give yourself the space.
Yeah, I remember as an 8th grade school teacher, when I was teaching 8th grade, one of the things I hated the most was when a kid would come up to me and say, Mr. Duncan, I'm bored. And one of the things I learned to say back to them is that boredom is a choice. Like if you're bored, you're choosing to be bored. I mean, what are you going to do? There's other things you can do. And had I known you and had I known what you teach about boredom breeds creativity, that would have been my answer. Boredom is a choice. So now is your opportunity to be creative. What do you want to do? And use your powers for good, not evil. Because a lot of bored kids do some stupid stuff. An idle mind is the devil's workshop, as they say.
Yep.
Okay. So if we lack vision, then that's keeping us poor. And we could change that by using our imagination again. Are there any tricks that you could recommend on how to spark imagination for those of us that may think that we're not very imaginative?
Yeah. And that's the hard part. And that's where I think using actors as an example is they can channel someone else. Like we talked about that with Heath Ledger, thanks to Jake giving us his name. He could actually become someone else. Well, I think we could do that with our own self. What is that higher version of ourselves? How do we need to show up? And then we can kind of look at where are we, what are we lacking now that we need to have to be the highest version of ourselves? Do we need to work on communication? Do we need to work on our writing skills? What skill are we lacking? And then we can start to get creative of, hey, what skills do I actually need to learn, and start visualizing ourselves as a great communicator, as a great writer, as a great boss, as a great leader. A lot of times leaders just want to show up and demand respect versus actually becoming the leader they need to become that people want to follow. So I think part of it is, and that's where the vision comes in, of thinking about who do I need to become? Not what do I need to do to have this, but who do I need to become? And then really visualizing, what does that person look like? How does that person show up? If there's a conflict, how does that person resolve it? And again, it's not you becoming somebody you're not, it's you actually becoming a higher version of yourself. And when you start to become that higher version of yourself, you're no longer reacting to a lot of stuff that's going on around you. You're actually becoming aware of it and you're responding in the correct way.
You know, that I've had that very experience you're explaining over the last month or so, since I've started working through this workbook with you on Think and Grow Rich. And we're writing our affirmations, and I've got a half a dozen of them that I do. And one of them is about a weight goal that I want to be at. And it's 185 pounds. And I haven't been 185 since I was in high school. So that's a long way to go for me, but it's not impossible. It's attainable, and I'm working diligently. I'm happily on my way, as you told us to say, to that. But here's what I've experienced is that I now make better choices on food, because I even say to myself, is that what 185 pound Jason would eat? Yes. No, he wouldn't. And I make those decisions, and it happens. It works.
Yep. And that's part of, we do have to trick our minds. And that's where affirmations can feel really weird. Like, if you say, okay, I'm 185 pounds, but you're not there. And in your mind, you're like, that doesn't even feel right. Then you can use, I'm happily on my way to my goal weight of 185 pounds. But then that's what happens in our minds when we have that option of, should I take another bite of this pasta? Oh, they got a dessert. They want me to take a bite of that. You know what? What does that 185 pound person do? And I can act from that. And that goes back to that vision, living from the end. You live as a 185 pound person. What do? They're not going to skip the gym today. They're going to go get their workout in. They're going to have their smoothie. They're going to pass on the dessert. And that starts to snowball. Each day leads to the next day. You make better choices that day. And it's our better choices over time that lead to our results.
It is. I tell you, the funny true story. I was staying at the Hampton Inn and Suites in Fraser, Michigan, just north of Detroit, over the last 2 days. And they have Otis Spunkmeyer cookies on the front counter when you come in. And we had gone out to dinner, and I had a really nice dinner. Very, very nice dinner, actually. And I got back to the hotel, and I have a sweet tooth. I've always had a sweet tooth my whole life, and I embrace it. And I like sweet. I like sweets. So, and I went to get a cookie, but instead of eating the whole cookie that they gave me, which is what the normal Jason would have done, I only ate half of it, not even half, and threw the other in the trash, which is a mental breakthrough for me, because I didn't know, I don't throw food away. But I was like, that's what 185 pound Jason would do, because, hey, he wants a cookie, and he's not going to deny himself that. I'm not about suppressing what I don't naturally desire, but I am going to only do what is necessary. I just wanted the sweetness. I didn't want the whole cookie. I just wanted the sweetness. So I took a couple bites, threw the rest in the trash. And I was like, that's what 185 pound Jason does. And I'm happy to say, for all the world to know, that who cares? It's like, I got on the scale for the first time today. I've been out of town for 2 weeks, and I was down 2 pounds. I'm like, how did that happen? I've been I haven't been working out because I've been out of town. Yeah. So my body is succumbing to the vision that I have.
Yep. Well, and then part of that is really, and we could go deep in this, me and you could talk for hours on this stuff, but when it comes to goals like that, if you find yourself continually self-sabotaging, you're skipping the gym, you're eating the cookies all the time, pizza, whatever, but then in your mind, you keep saying, but I want to be 185 pounds. The reality is you don't want it bad enough if you continue to make those choices. Yeah. So you can't stay in that limbo of, I'm telling myself I want this, but my actions equal this. So really, I want to eat crap and not work out more than I actually want my goal. And the reality is, if that's where you are in life, then accept that. And that's just the place I am right now, that I just would rather live my life like this, but not hit that goal. Versus when you get really true about that goal, which is where I think the vision comes in, like, no, I'm really going to show up as that. That's when you start making the decisions like you have, like, you know what, I can take a bite, but then it's not going to control me. I'm going to throw the rest of it away. I'm actually going to hit the gym. I'm going to do these things because my goal is more important than the short-term delight that I get from that.
So the first thing that we're doing that's keeping us poor, whether it's financially, physically, or otherwise, is our lack of vision, and we can correct that by using our imagination again. So if the second goal, the second thing we're doing every day, that is keeping us poor, is that we're not feeding our mind daily. What are the corrective things that we can do to feed our mind on a regular basis?
Yep. And definitely daily routines. You mentioned morning routine, which I think a lot of people talk about morning routines, but not enough people are talking about evening routines, because I believe a daily routine sets up your day for success, but the evening routine sets up your life for success. Because whatever you're putting into your mind as you're falling asleep, your subconscious mind is actually starting to process that when you're falling asleep. And studies have shown this too. Like if you're studying, like back in college, you got exams coming up. If you're studying right before you fall asleep, your mind will continue to process. You can actually learn as you're falling asleep. But the same thing goes when you want to program your mind for success. If you create that vision of what it looks like, you live from the end before you fall asleep, you create a little scene, a visualization of what it's like as if your goals are already accomplished, that you're already living from that end. And when you do that, as you're falling asleep, your subconscious mind starts to program that. When you program, hey, I am 185 pounds and I make healthy decisions as you're falling asleep, the next day when you wake up, you start to be in closer to that 185-pound goal. You'll make better decisions because you're starting to believe that's who you are. You're starting to believe I make better health decisions because this is who I am. So I think really maximizing the time before you fall asleep is huge, but then also in the morning too. Morning is a powerful time to do affirmations, to spend time in prayer, meditation, doing those things that get you set up for the day.
So that what you said there is a good quote. Morning routine set your day for success, but evening routine set your life up for success. I'm getting much better. I'm not really a routine person. I'm more of a rhythm person. I've talked about that before on my podcast, but I think that the morning routine, as it were, I've got pretty down pat, but I'm working towards a better evening routine where I'm actually talking to myself about my affirmations when I lie in bed. And I'm like, okay, I am, I make this much money. I own these things. I'm making this impact through these ways. I'm connected deeply to these people because of this. I'm saying that to myself, and it's now become part of my evening routine. So you've helped encourage me to do that as my mindset doctor. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no. And what's cool is like to witness that with you, because we've all heard these things for years, and a lot of stuff with mindset stuff, and we'll do it for a little while too, but then we'll go back to our just day to day. We're getting stuff done and forget about how important this stuff is. But just to see you actually not dabbling with it, you're like, you know what, I'm actually going to do this and see what happens. And by seeing that, I see how you show up differently. Like you have a different energy about you because you can see it's working. Like, and that's the hard part, because it's easy to knock off my to-do list to take the steps towards success and to get a result. It's hard to be like, oh, I'm going to do my affirmations because I can't see a result tomorrow. So we have to make ourselves actually do the work of that over time, because it's not like something that I can just stop eating cookies and start going to the gym and actually physically see a difference. It takes time and repetition, which is why I think every single day you got to feed your mind, but you got to remind yourself of how important this stuff is. And I know you've seen that because you start to feel the difference energetically in how you show up.
So the third thing that you said that we do that keeps us poor is not surrounding ourselves with great people. And I know we kind of already answered the question because we talked about masterminds, we talked about coaches, et cetera, but you can either expand upon those two suggestions as a way to rectify that thing that's keeping us poor, or are there other ways that we could rectify that we're not surrounding ourselves with great people?
Yeah, I think definitely everybody should join a mastermind. If you can't afford to invest in a mastermind, then start. And it kind of overlaps with feeding your mind. But the books that you read, the people that you read, those can be your mentors. Napoleon Hill is dead and gone, but he's still a mentor of ours because we read Think and Grow Rich. We read Outwitting the Devil and things like that. So that's part of your mentors can be the people whose books you read, whose podcasts you listen to, whose YouTube channels you listen to. They can be your mentors until But then I would still connect with other people, connect with other like-minded individuals that will push you to go past your limits, because we all limit ourselves. And I think the biggest thing that keeps people from getting what they want in life is the story they keep telling themselves of why they can't have it. So when you surround yourself with other people that can encourage you and be like, you know what, you can do this. And a lot of times we borrow that belief from them, and it allows us to push a little bit further and a little bit further and a little bit further. And all of a sudden we've achieved so much more than we would have done on our own.
So I think that the moral of that story about the mastermind is that, however you do it, you've got to surround yourself with good people. I think the statistically, psychologically, you're the average of the 5 people that you hang out with the most. And so if you're hanging out with people that are not leading the kind of life that you want to live, and they're not going in the same direction that you want to go, you got to choose a new circle of people to hang out with. That doesn't mean you drop friends. It means you have to actively seek out the people that are going to provide the influence that you need. I'm always amazed at the political spectrum and how the right and the left fight. And, you've got the poor and the rich, and really, no matter where you are on any of those spectrums, it's a mindset. 100%. Oh, I guess we could do one that's a little easier to talk about: the Android and the iPhone spectrum.
Right.
It's a mindset. Like, which one do you like? Subjectively, one may be better than the other, maybe, or excuse me, objectively, but it's all about what we are programmed our mindset to do. We've got to get around other people. I've told my kids this their whole life. You got to pick good friends. Your friends are going to be the biggest influence on your life. And as an adult, as an entrepreneur, I mean, we got people here in this meeting. Your people that you're surrounding yourself with are going to influence you for the good or for the worse. So, Justin, this is all fantastic information. How would people reach out to you to get in touch with you to work on their mindset if they are interested?
Yeah, so you can check out my website, drjustinmoseley.com, but follow me on Instagram. Shoot me a message and just tell me that you heard me through Jason's Entrepreneur Master Series. And for either one of us, if there's something we said that you like, shoot us a DM. We both answer all of our DMs. Some people have people that do that for them. No, we love connecting with people. And this kind of stuff, when we hear something we said made a difference, it helps us continue to do more of this, because that's what we're about. I know Jason's heart. We both have a heart to serve people and make a difference. This is our calling that we're living out. So if anything that we said hit home with you, definitely let us know.
So go to drjustinmoseley.com, check that out. While you were talking there, the last comment you made before I asked you about the contact information, it reminded me of a story that I heard. I just did a little quick search. I don't know if this is the one I'm looking for. You've probably heard this before, but it's about a high school kid who was kind of struggling through high school, and he went to take his SAT, and he got 1480 out of 1600, which was unbelievable. A kid like that should not have gotten it, but he did. And, they all thought he cheated. And, but, he's like, I didn't cheat. Like I just did the test. And so he went on to college. He got accepted to college. He became a straight A student in college. He was, he succeeded in life tremendously, but then it turns out later, he was one of 13 people who got the wrong SAT scores. His actual score, 740.
Yeah.
So his whole life was dictated by someone telling him that he was smarter than he actually was. And he believed it. And he went on to live a life that paralleled the reality of him being smart, rather than what might be argued by some, the true reality of him not being so smart. And our minds it's that autopilot. It goes back to the boat thing. You're programmed a certain way, and you decide to pull the ship the other direction. If you keep holding on and reprogram that, like that kid did, your mindset can take you anywhere you want to go.
Yeah. And there's so many stories of that. So Carol Dweck wrote the book called Mindset, and they talked about the study where they told the teachers which kids were gifted and which ones weren't. And the way the teachers taught the kids and the way that they acted towards the students made the ones that weren't gifted, but the teachers were told that, they treated them differently. And the kids started believing that they were gifted and started to do better on their scores. That's how powerful it is. But the thing is, nothing in life has meaning until we give it meaning. And a good example of this, there's a story of two brothers. One was homeless and one became very successful. And they were both interviewed. And the one that was homeless, they asked him, how did you end up like this? And he told them, I had an abusive father. And they went to the guy that was really successful and they said, how did you end up like this? If your brother's like that, he said this, I had an abusive father. They both had the same environment, but they chose what they went through. They gave it a completely different meaning. One said, oh, I'm doomed. I'm going to get into drugs and alcohol and go do this because of what happened to me. The other one said, you know what? I'm going to take what happened to me and I'm going to overcome and become successful. So it's all a mindset shift. It's the perception, the way we look at the world determines if we're going to stay poor or if we're going to go and actually be rich, as we're talking about in life, not just wealth, finances, but rich in life.
Yeah. Well, that's a powerful story, because if we really embrace the truth of that story, it eliminates this victim mentality that so many people live with. And the people that are in here that are listening to this, that are watching this, we're not victims. So it's not us, but there's a lot of this world that's living as victims. Everything's out to get me. I'm being pushed down because I'm X or I'm Y or I'm Z, whatever your X, Y, and Z is. No, everybody has the same opportunity to think themselves into a better position. Our minds are created by God to allow us that opportunity. And we all have that opportunity to think ourselves into a better position. And I refuse to allow people to put me into that victim box. And the more I think about what you've taught me as a coach for me in the mindset area, I can think and grow rich, as Napoleon Hill talked about. And it's not just money, although that is part of it, but it's about health. It's about wealth. It's about relationships. It's about all those things. So, Justin, thank you for everything you do. Thank you for your friendship. Thank you for being here on the Entrepreneur Master Series. I really have enjoyed this. I've got a few things I want to announce before we finish up, but you got any last words you want to share before we finish our conversation?
No, I want to thank you. It's an honor to be here. I appreciate you, appreciate your friendship. And I know anybody listening, if you listen to Jason for any time, he's got a heart to serve people. So again, join a mastermind. He's got an amazing mastermind. I run mastermind groups. Definitely surround yourself with people, consume his content, because it will allow you to think and grow rich. So thank you again, brother, for having me.
All right. Thank you. Well, if you guys like this content, this type of content, I'm going to tell you in just a moment about the next EMS that's coming up. So don't go away. I'm going to tell you who's coming on the next one. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we're going to be talking about here in a couple of weeks. But if you like this type of content and the value that it provides to you as an entrepreneur, there's more where this came from. You can join the TRJD coaching family, which Justin was so graciously talking about, to get this type of high quality coaching on a regular basis. You can just go to therealjasonduncan.com and read all about that if you want to, whenever you want to. But my specific opportunity for you right now is I want to ask you this question. How much is knowing when you could exit your business worth to you? Like, you're a business owner, you've got a business that's running, it's successful, but knowing when you could exit, when you could get out of daily operations and have that business continue to run and throw off cash flow, knowing that date, would that be worth something to you? It probably would. So what I want to encourage you to do is go take my free exit readiness assessment at amireadytoexit.com. That's amireadytoexit.com. I'm going to pop this into the chat for those of you that are still in the webinar. You can see this, amireadytoexit.com. And that's a free exit readiness report that you'll get on how close you are to being able to exit the daily operations of your business. Now, the bigger part of this is that one lucky person who takes the assessment in the next 24 hours, and it's like it takes you 5 minutes to take it, is going to get 50% off the next Business Accelerator group coaching cohort, which starts on October the 27th. That's a $4,000 value. So go take the assessment. One lucky person is going to get a coupon to get 50% off the next Business Accelerator, a $4,000 value. You don't want to miss that. Now, I told you I was going to tell you who's going to be on the next Entrepreneur Master Series. So the next Entrepreneur Master Series is going to be on November the 1st at 3:30 p.m. Central Time. The topic is never do these three things in a sales negotiation. Never do these three things in a sales negotiation. And their guest expert is Eric Reifenberg. And we all know that sales negotiations between buyers and sellers ideally lead to a deal being closed the way that both parties can appreciate. But however, there are do's and don'ts of those negotiations. And how we do get the most out of each conversation is an important question. How do we do that? Well, Eric Reifenberg has extensive training and practical negotiation experience that he is ready to share with you and with me. And I want you to tune into this next live webinar, the Entrepreneur Master Series, for an immersive masterclass that will have you owning your next sales negotiation. The link to register is going to be popped into the chat. If you are just listening to this online and you're not able to click on the link, you can always go to therealjasonduncan.com/EMS and sign up for any of these. But if you're attending this live, you always get invited to the next one. So again, thank you for being here. Big thanks to Dr. Justin Moseley for him being a part of this. This has been the Entrepreneur Master Series for October the 19th, 2022. I am the real Jason Duncan, and Jesus is King.